mechanism. For example, today, Power Grid is investing in a technology called National Transmission Automation Technology. By that, in a control room in close to Gurgaon at Manesar, 192 substations of India can be remotely monitored and maintained without any people running those substations. So that's the scale. Second investment is happening in what is called URTDSM project, which is on what you call wide area monitoring. So here, the grid stability is going to be monitored by measuring the phase angle of the three phases, and by online computing, any transmission line would be computed in terms of its inherent stability of that line and the grid, the power it is carrying, and how much more power it can carry. So these are technologies which will further strengthen the grid. So the 1200 kV will not de facto destabilize the grid, because you need that you need to go to that voltage, because tomorrow when the grid goes to 500 gigawatt and eventually to something like 750 gigawatt by 2032, you cannot transport power at 765 kV, because the 765 kV line can only carry 2000 megawatt and no more. So that's the point. On the renewable side, your question was, so renewable is unpredictable. So therefore, today, thanks to the automation technology and third-party software, you have a lot of software tools by which you can get the predictive. And it's like the weather forecasting system. So you have tools. So if you integrate that in your control system, you can prepare the grid. If the wind is going to be very strong this evening, then you can ensure that much of load is captured by the grid by reducing generation in other areas. So that's how the grid will work.
In India, unfortunately, we have only coal-based plants, and it's not so easy to reduce the coal generation. And ultimately, the renewables is just to back down. If it is gas-based,
I promise you, I'll organize a meeting with you with Mr. Soni, who manages our grid, and I would request all the delegates to keep the questions short and all the panelists to keep the answers short. We are terribly out of time. I just don't want to see that this session goes into lunch, which was supposed to be the morning session. So we shouldn't do that, although we started half an hour late because you people assembled half an hour late. But I would now request, now I think Mr. B.P. Rao's and Mr. Rathin Basu's email ID may kindly be put on the screen here, so that anybody who's not missed out the questions you want to ask, you can send it across. Mr. Basu, can you take the other question if you have any? Do you have anybody else asking you a question?
No, it's all done.
Is there anybody else?
No.
Huh? Now, Mr. Rao.
Well, there is a question by Sujay Dash Verma, AGM-IT of NTPC. Will it be economically viable to first do R&D and then produce special materials like CRGO steel in India, as you have shared that global leaders are holding technology and patents very closely? It is possible to develop this. There are bodies like Fraunhofer and CSM of France. They have the capability to develop, and they have, in fact, they are but I think you must revive that.
Yeah, we'll be reviving
There is enormous amount of demand for CRGO steel in the country now.
Thank you.
Yeah, there are three more. Mr. Kanchan Singh, left side.
Sir, good morning to all of you. I am Kanchan Singh from 92 which BIT Misra, and presently I am from NTPC. Sir, first of all, I want to thank the organizers of this event, and especially our CMD, Mr. Praj Chaudhary sir, because of whom I am here to attend this event. My question is related to solar power manufacturing related. So, sir, India has a potential of huge solar power. If we can tap 10% of the solar installations we receive, we can fulfill the energy requirements of the country. And if we can use only 3% of the wasteland, then the whole energy requirements of India can be fulfilled by setting up the solar power plants. The question is, the challenge is this manufacturing of solar equipments. The directly question is that if we are going for setting up the ultra mega solar power plants, how we will take up the challenge to transmit that power from the ultra solar power plants to the load centers? How we are going up to manufacture such equipments, like stepping up, stepping down and transmitting equipments?
Yeah, these ultra mega solar projects also have conceived the transmission lines from those projects. So in fact, in one of the ultra mega solar projects, Power Grid is also a partner with us. What we have conceived in Rajasthan, a 16,000 megawatt solar plant in about 4 phases, 4,000 megawatt first phase. So your point is right that there has to be a method of transmitting that power to the load centers. So when you are conceiving a mega project, if it is a small project, probably the distribution can happen there itself and the consumption can happen there itself. But then mega projects will require transmission systems, and there is nothing to cut short that. It has to be available. So Power Grid is gearing up for that. Mr. Akshay Mathur.
Since this renewable energy production is slightly unviable today as vis-a-vis coal because of the very high capital cost, are you going to use the green carbon credit and other credits to reduce the interest rate? Ask the funding agency to fund you at 0% interest so that you can come at par? Are you using some method for easy funding on that? Reducing the interest rate on the capital cost?
Well, that's right. So there are a number of concessions being provided, like feed-in tariff, for example, today, incentive available from the state governments as well as from the central government on this. There are some tariff concessions that way for the solar. Yes, this is going to be, a challenge for us to really put up these plants and commercially run them. So, but number of projects are already working in this direction, and they have been successful.
So, what I want to know is, do you do a analysis like that if fund is available at 0%, then what is the per unit cost of generation?
Yes.
Are you bringing that kind of a comparative
concept
before the
evaluation.
government?
Definitely, it is bringing, not only the fund is available for the power generation, we are also having the concessional funding from the NCEF funds, National Clean Energy Fund. The central government is providing concessions, capital subsidies under that. Because the cess what they collect on petrol is being put in this NCEF for roads as well as for NCEF, and they are providing capital subsidy under that scheme. In fact, we are conceiving, setting up a project for a mega scale photovoltaic manufacturing plant, where we are even conceiving to put up the materials. See, nobody makes solar materials. Again, my point on materials. India is very weak on materials. So we have conceived a project where we set up to manufacture even the wafers, that is. Wafers today are totally imported. Wafers plus the cells. Here, there is a 40% capital subsidy which is being provided under the National Clean Energy Fund. So we are using all that. Now, from the developer side, what you are asking is the project developer. These concessions are being considered in their projects while evaluating the viability.
Okay, second thing is related to mining, because I come from the mining sector. I just want to bring to your attention that the entire raw material that is being mined in the country is using only 0.5% of the geographical area of the country. The demand is to increase the land area allocation for mining to 5% to meet out the demand. We will like to have support from you, from the manufacturing industry, because without raw material, there will be no manufacturing. Even for infrastructure sector, without raw material, no further development of infrastructure. There is absolutely no mineral security for India. So this is something where you should also try and provide some support to the mining industry in terms of, easing out on the policy measures and other things. Because 0.5%, Forest Department has got 23% allocation. And all the blame of pollution and everything is coming on mining. So we should support the raw material sector. That is one important request.
You want the manufacturing industry to support you in terms of taking up the issue with the government. That's what I think.
Land allocation, that is a major issue today.
Well, land is a problem today in the country.
Yes.
You know the issue involved. Land reforms, they wanted to bring in more than whatever the law which was passed earlier. In this session of Parliament, they are not able to take it. They are going to take it in the next session of Parliament. There are some amendments which are going to happen. So let us wait. Let us
Yes.
some of these
These
the government is really seized of
We
the
are looking
problem.
for support on that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mathur.
Mr. Balwant Sharma.
Is he here? Yeah.
Yeah. Good morning, sir. My first question is, how is BHEL now going to contribute for defense equipment, most for iron ships like in power-related equipment and other two services? And second is related to solar cells. You have mentioned limitation of making solar cells more than 100 megawatt capacity. What are the reasons for that? And how are you going to overcome them?
So the first question is concerned on defense. BHEL has been in the defense field for last almost 20 years now. We have been manufacturing armored recovery vehicles, the simulators like weapon effect simulation systems, the tank simulators, the naval guns today is an established product in BHEL. So there are a number of products which were conceived already for defense.
Issue was more on power equipment, generators, turbines, related, gas turbines and all that. Other equipment on ships.
No, they're already in the product profile. I didn't understand the question. We're already making the steam turbines and gas turbines. What is your question on this?
Which ships you have fitted those, then if you have manufactured them?
You're talking about the smaller turbines in the
Turbines used for generating power on ships.
Yeah. See, they have identified now BHEL and HAL as the joint agency to produce these engines. These power engines, which they are importing till now from USSR, rather, Russia, they are having a number of problems in Ministry of Defense. They have identified now. And there are 4 varieties of engines in this. So 2 varieties are a joint venture and 2 varieties BHEL is going to take up manufacture of them.
Thank you, Mr. Rao, for enlightening our
Second
ideas.
question was on power cells, limitation of 100 megawatt you mentioned, and what are the reasons and how you're
No, what I said was that, the scales of manufacture, the disadvantage factor, what the other manufacturers had, there are 20 companies whose manufacturing capacity was less than 100 megawatt for photovoltaic cells. And they all had to close down that manufacturing capacity because of the cheaper imports from Chinese. Chinese scales of manufacture have been 5,000 megawatt. Production capacity of 5,000 megawatt, 10,000 megawatt, that is the kind of levels of scales. So with that scale, the 100 megawatt and below people could not compete. So therefore, we need to look at how to increase the scales, to raise it to the global levels of scale. That's what the point.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Rao. I think there's one last question from Mr. Gaurav Mrinal. I think he's asked it to Mr. Anup Juchi also and to me.
Yeah.
So if you could ask the question to Mr. Anup Juchi,
Okay.
because he's waiting for a long time for a question,
Yes,
So,
sir. Because he's from the consulting background, so Make in India is, of course, great. But why not consult in India? I mean, we have great, all the big fours. When we talk about, if you see the kind of intellect which goes inside those companies, most of them are Indians. I mean, people go to US, take a master's degree, and finally end up in the big fours. So why not something as consultant India? Because that's also a great revenue generator. So.
I think very good question. I'm proud to say that actually we found that as an opportunity for us. Actually, we have a very large center in Chennai, India, where we have more than about 500 consultants who actually not only work to serve our clients in the Indian market, but they also serve many of our global markets as well. So the answer is absolutely yes. The talent pool is available, the skill levels are available, and I think we can easily leverage them in every part of the world. And many of these processes and systems can be transferred from one part of the world to another part of the world. So is it possible? Yes. Are other companies doing it similar to us, especially the big 5 consulting companies in the world, like the McKinsey's, Booz, etc.? All of them have very large operations in India, and many of them are actually using the talent pool here to work on a variety of different projects. So the good news is it's happening. I think you're going to see big resurgence, big surge with more consulting work being done out of India. So I can say we're on the right track.
Thank you. Thank you very much to the audience for being so patient, the panelists for keeping them engaged, for the number of questions that you have asked, goes to show how involved you were in the presentations. I hope this panel has done justice to what it was started off to do. We've been able to enlighten you on the Make in India concept, and I think I am very grateful to you for having sat with us patiently despite overshooting time. Thank you, all of you. Thank you, panelists.
Let's have a big round of applause for all our panelists. Truly a very productive and powerful session. I'd like to request Mr. Akshaydeep Mathur, Secretary General, Federation of Mining Association of Rajasthan, to please present mementos to all our esteemed panelists. Thank you, gentlemen, for making this discussion such a rich one, bringing to the table all your vast experience and knowledge, and thank you to the entire audience for all the brilliant questions put forth. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Well, everyone, before we break for tea, we've come to a very special moment. It's time to put the spotlight on some very special people without whose dedication, passion, contribution, hard work, the first ever Bitosa Global Conclave would not have been possible. So to present mementos, I'd like to request Dr. Mishra to please join us on stage. Dr. M.K. Mishra, of course, as you all know, is the Vice Chancellor of Birla Institute of Technology, Mirsa. Welcome, sir. I'd like to invite back on the stage Dr. Roop Roy Chaudhary. So maybe if you could join us center stage, it would be brilliant. Let's have a big round of applause. This is the first ever Bitosa Global Conclave. It's been a stellar effort by a set of very special people. I'd also like to invite Mr. Akshaydeep Mathur. Welcome, sir. Mr. Rishi Mittal. Mr. Varun Pandey. Mr. Ayush Agarwal. These people are the reason why we're all here, we're all connecting. And Mr. Ramesh Agarwal.